freedom to be able to serve you. One of the things that our superintendents have done over the last several years is created a student advisory council. And it is made up of middle school and high school students from all across the county. In fact, just last month, I was there to attend along with 3 other of our board members. And I got with all of the student and ambassadors for District 2. And we spent an hour and a half discussing what you as students need, what you'd like to see us tackle. It was great. We talked about technology. We talked about the environment that within the atmosphere within which we're educating you students. And it was extremely robust. I loved the opportunity, and that happens on a regular basis throughout the year. And it happens with, again, representatives from your schools, and it represents the entirety of the student body. These aren't just your A students. They're students representing every aspect of who you are as a student body, and it's a great program.
Thank you. I believe that the best ideas come from our kids in schools and life really in general. And I find listening to kids being extremely enlightening and exciting and mind-opening. And as a board member, I love the superintendent council that was just spoken about. I know some kids around that would really appreciated that. And as a board member, I would want students to feel like if they are looking for someone to talk to get their ideas or their concerns out, that we're always a place you can turn. And that I am a person who wants to hear you, and I would carry that with me when I talk to other people, whether that's the superintendent, other board members, whatever that may be, so that I can constantly be thinking about how to solve a problem or how to make a situation better. Because I really hold those personal experiences close to my heart, and especially when it comes from the kids, because they're what this is all about.
I'm going to go just a little bit different route because I think Mr. Knudsen made such a good point, and because I have not been a board member, I can't speak on everything that he's speaking on, but I think that you should always get involved in your student council, in your school, in your elementary school. I do believe they have them in elementary school, but definitely in middle school, because your principal really has a lot of flexibility of what he can do he or she can do in their school. And just like it's just the beginning, like what you're doing right now is being involved right now, being involved in politics and getting your voice heard. Get your voice heard in your school. You don't know what you can change. The power of, maybe 12 student council members. My kids were in peer-to-peer programs. They were in student council at Trickham, and that got them involved even to high school. And then my now retired high school teacher was on the advisory board at Mill Creek High School as a teacher. She was very involved as a student. And thank you for being so involved.
Thank you all for answering these questions. Youth voices are the foundation of the GCPS, and I hope that you'll continue to prioritize our needs no matter where your pathway leads. I'll turn it over to Ms. Wright now.
Okay, I neglected to mention this before, but each candidate gets 90 seconds to respond to each of these questions, just so that you guys know what we're operating with. Okay, so let's start with Ms. Christopher. And then we're going to go left to right this time. First question is, when state funding falls short of what the district needs, hard choices have to be made. And we know teacher compensation is a recurring concern. If you had to choose between an across-the-board salary increase for all staff versus targeted pay to retain teachers in hard-to-staff schools, which would you support and why?
I've heard a lot of politicians say I'm not going to answer a theoretical question because I'm not serving on the board. I have not served on the board. And until that came right in front of me, I think that would take months to decide that question. And I would not want to be pinned down to that question. I think that teachers are so important, and that would just be too big of a question to answer right now. I hear what you're saying. I just don't want to be held to a snap answer.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, you said left to right, you just mean right across, right?
I mean, yes, of
Yeah, right.
course.
All right. Yeah, the thing that you're faced with is always one of balance as a board member. You've got 24, in Gwinnett County, you've got 24,000 employees, and you've got custodians and bus drivers and parapros and teachers, and this county is always committed to having teaching and learning right at the heart of what we do. And so teaching and learning is always going to get the priority. And I can just tell you as a board member, with the help from some state funding, we have increased our starting teacher position salary by 20% in the last 8 years. Prior to 2019, there were some of those drastic times when we had to make those decisions when $100 million a year for 9 out of 10 years did not come from the state. We did not furlough a teacher. We did not lay any off. We did not let any go. We have demonstrated a commitment. And I think what really highlights that commitment is the fact that our retention rate is way better than anything in our neighboring districts. In fact, we're going into the fall already with less than a handful of open positions. And out of 14,000 teachers, to have fewer than a dozen, I think, openings speaks to the culture that we have and the commitment and the prioritization for our teachers. But I will also say we're fully staffed in buses, fully staffed in custodians. We attract and retain because we take care of our people.
Okay, I'm gonna stand over here so you don't look back at me. That's you two, you don't wanna look at me.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. When state funding falls short of what the district needs, hard choices have to be made, and we know teacher compensation is a recurring concern. If you had to choose between an across-the-board salary increase for all teachers versus targeted pay to teachers in hard-to-staff schools, which would you support and why?
So it's to some teachers or all teachers is the.
Actually, it says all staff.
All staff
Or
or
targeted
teachers. That is a very, very difficult choice. Because as important as our teachers are in our classroom, all of the people around our teachers and throughout the buildings are just as essential to making everything run and to being able to take care of our kids and serve our kids. I like to think that something that I bring to the table in many different rooms that I'm in is that I'm able to kind of try to start thinking outside the box. And personally, I would try to think about what's a third option. What's an option that we have not thought about yet that might be able to better serve our entire staff and teachers? Where do we have some extra blow? Where do we have some, what could we cut that really doesn't affect the people that we are employing and serving? And how can we do our very best to make sure that we have that right priority and not just being too stuck into options, but being able to think about maybe a third.
Thank you. Okay, for this question, we're gonna start in the middle with you, Mr.
Okay.
Johnson, and then go that way. The recent superintendent search left many families feeling shut out. Transparency means more than posting minutes online. What does real accountability look like to you, and how will you ensure this board earns back community trust?
I think trust is earned through performance. We have to get back to performing at the high levels. We're trending in that direction, but there have also been some gaps that we need to continue to address. And so that's specifically what we looked at when we hired this new superintendent. And that was her experience in closing gaps and some of the critical gaps that we know are going to have to be closed while we continue to pursue excellence. So we started, and this was a far more transparent process than we had 4 years ago when we hired Dr. Watts. We did that purposefully. So we had focus groups, we had surveys, we went to the community in each of the districts, we got input, and we asked and we found what they were looking for. Then we also looked at the data, and we looked at what we needed as a district. And the areas that we were lagging was in multilingual learner performance, which she has had proven performance gains in that area, as well as special ed, and she's had some proven performance gains in those areas. The other area that's really been critical is chronic absenteeism. If kids aren't in school, they're not learning. If they're not learning, they're not going to perform well, clearly. She has had great success in that area. And what I'm excited about is that she is committed to look at our clusters and to see what gaps we have cluster by cluster, so that then we can provide the supports to take care of those gaps in each of our different clusters. And that's where we'll see success.
Sorry, can you read the question again, please?
Of course. The recent superintendent search left many families feeling shut out. Transparency means more than posting minutes online. What does real accountability look like to you, and how will you ensure this board earns back community trust?
I definitely see where there's trust that needs to be built back. I did also feel like the superintendent search was a lot more transparent than in the past, and I really appreciated that. However, being able to hear feedback and questions like that shows that there's still room to grow. And I think that communication is really one of the main ways to build back trust. To be a person who is willing to listen to anybody who reaches out with any sort of concern. I feel like that's what I look for in a board member. Somebody who follows up, somebody who really cares about what I have to say. And I feel like if people aren't feeling that, then there's still work to be done. Are we offering enough ways to be accessed? Are we putting ourselves in front of the community enough? Are we actually answering questions, showing that we're putting some things into action? I think those are all ways that we can improve the trust through better communication.
I think that these have been great answers. Anecdotally, I want to talk about a couple of people reached out to me as soon as I declared my candidacy, and they spoke to the fact that they would come to board meetings. They would speak in their 3 minutes, and I've been online and watched several board meetings, and they don't feel listened to. And that's not a slam against anybody, but this is what they would report to me. And what I felt like was, I don't know if there's a reporting system where somebody is actually taking notes when a parent, assuming it's a parent, that's who I spoke with, the several people that spoke to me, is someone taking notes? Is someone going to get back to that person with their comment, or does it just go into the air? They feel like it goes nowhere. That is what they're saying. So to me, I think there ought to be a plan where somebody comes up and makes a comment. There is a get back with you. Thank you. There is a get back somehow. We are looking into this. You can direct your questions specifically to this assistant superintendent. You can make a call, maybe not directly to a board member, but I know that that's what parents want, is to be heard and to have some feedback.
This question is about academic achievement. Gwinnett is one of the most diverse districts in Georgia. 32% of students are Black and 35% are Hispanic. Yet data shows that Black and Hispanic students are academically 2 or more grade levels behind their white peers, and only 61.5% of third graders are historically underserved groups are reading at the district's own goal of 74%. What specific board level actions would you take to close these gaps, and how would you measure whether they're actually working?
I think continuing with the disaggregated data that has been a lot more brought in front of the public in the past few years, I think that's something that is extremely important to keep doing and keep showing to ourselves and to the whole community, because then we can really see where some of those gaps are. As a parent of a child in special education, I also know that there is a cross between our Black kids being in lower achieving classrooms and also being put into special education without proper services and supports. I know that there's a lot of really specific issues that need to be honed in on to making sure that our kids are being served properly. Continuing to look at the data and looking at these groups as individuals and seeing what each individual group needs, each individual student needs, making sure that the ones with the most needs are being served actually will also help improve the academic achievement of all of the students in the classroom. So I really feel a big priority and a passion for making sure that those who are underserved are brought to the forefront of our priorities.
Okay, I'm gonna go double barrel on this one. I am an ELL passion freak. I believe that English as English language learning needs to be going on in every elementary school, every middle school, every high school. They do have these programs in some schools, but the Hispanic kids that are, I'm just gonna say, anybody that enrolls that does not speak English does not need to go into the general population until they have been given a chance to really learn some English. This is not to segregate them, this is they want to learn English so bad, and they're gonna come out of it bilingual to boot. But put them in, have them learning English. If you start judging how many Hispanic kids are performing, tell me first, have we helped them speak English? If they're bilingual, yes, they should be in class performing at grade level. That's where we want them. But first, let's teach them English. Let's do that in every class. Second, class sizes matter. They matter so badly. You have 29 students, 28 students, everybody's suffering. If this is what's happening, where the schools are predominantly Black or Hispanic, which in my cluster is all the schools, all the elementary schools, all the middle schools. But you know, this is our family. This is our community. These are our citizens. Let's serve them. Why do we have to have 28 students? That's overtaxing the teacher, and the student is not going to be well served. Let's do better with that.
Can you repeat that question?
Of course. Gwinnett is one of the most diverse districts in Georgia. 32% of students are Black, 35% are Hispanic, yet data shows Black and Hispanic students are academically 2 or more grade levels behind their white peers, and only 61.5% of third graders in historically underserved groups are reading at grade level, which is well below the district's own goal of 74%. What specific board level actions would you take to close these gaps, and how would you measure whether they're actually working?
We established KPIs under Dr. Watts to track all of this data in a very disaggregated way. And so we continue to track those. It's in our system, it's on the website. Anyone can access it, see how we're doing. So we've been very upfront and transparent with the data. The board really has only 2 levers in this, and that's the superintendent and the budget. So we have had our experts, we've had our team, they've been working on the budget. It really starts a month or 2 after we pass this current one, they'll start working on the next one. But we have the International Transition Center, the International Newcomer Center. That has been an organization within GCPS that has helped our multilingual learners in 6 clusters. 10 years ago, the majority of our multilingual learners were in those 6 clusters in the central to south part of the county. Now it's everywhere. Lanier, which is our home cluster, has 60 languages spoken. So it's no longer just Spanish. But I think what we've done is we're tailoring our budget to make sure those needs are addressed. We're continuing with our weighted assessments, school by school, to determine which schools need help with closing those gaps. And now we've hired a proven performer as superintendent in those areas. So we're going to specifically look at our KPIs and our strategic plan and see how we perform against where we are today.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna start back with you going left to right. So this is about safety. School safety means different things to different families. Some focus on physical security, others on mental health and belonging. How do you define a safe school? Where would you direct resources to support to make GCPS schools safer in every sense of the word?
That's a big, wide topic. One, I think it's going to be a big plus to get all personal devices out of the hands of kids. And that is smartphones, headphones, phones. They just passed the law that K through 12 would no longer be able to have personal devices. And I say that, I don't want to lose my time, but they do have it now. Right now we have it K through 8, but now, not this coming year, but the year after. You would not believe how many fights and how much discord is stewed in the phones, especially in the high schools. And this is in every high school. They stew the fights. Okay, and then safety can mean discipline. I'm jumping to the next one. Safety can mean there's a child in a class who is disturbing, that is disturbing the class. I had a child throw a chair. Now, as a substitute teacher, I can hit a button and say he needs to go. A teacher cannot always do that. They might have to write him up. He has to sit in an area. So it's the consequences are layered and tiered, and this is what teachers are telling me, that they don't get immediate results, and that child is going to continue to disturb.
Yeah, safety is a huge issue. Gwinnett has always led in the safety from a school hardening perspective, if you will. We always, in fact, a lot of times the legislation that's passed down in Atlanta is based upon things that we've already done in Gwinnett County. We've been working on this for several years. We've been increasing the vestibules so that the right people are in our schools, the wrong people are not. We were able to, they didn't fully fund that anyway, but we were able to continue by setting the stage or setting the precedent, then get funding for the latter part to finish that up. We've put involved weapons detection systems at all of our high schools, all of our middle schools. Those were not fully funded by the state, and yet we've taken the time and the efforts to do that, and those are showing great results. We continue to work on respect and programs. We've added advisement. We've added the opportunity for teachers to bring their kids together and to talk about differences and talk about how to get along. The legislature is going to limit cell phones, which is fantastic. Most of our high-performing schools, especially at the elementary, have already done things like that. I know I was talking to 4 principals in the elementary in North Gwinnett. They all basically have a cell phone policy. And we're going to see that go K through 12, and that's going to be a huge difference in cutting back on the angst and the bullying and some of the social media poor, bad things that are happening in that arena.
I feel like it's important to address safety in the school from 2 different sides, so to say. There's the side of the external safety measures that we can make at our school, procedures, double doors, whatever that may be, to make it feel safe where we're at now. And then I feel like it's also important to address the other side of it. Why are our kids feeling unsafe? What is the root of the problem? And I feel like behavior is communication. And when our students are exhibiting certain behaviors, they're actually telling us something. And looking at the data and looking at our students and being an advocate for many students in the special education system, it's very clear that when our students' needs aren't met, if they're not being supported in their learning environment, if they're not being accommodated to the curriculum, then they're going to have behaviors. And so I feel like making sure that all of our students' individual needs are being met will help with the behavior that then turns into safety issues. So I feel like it's important to address it from both sides.
Thank you. We have a hard stop tonight, and we want to make sure that we respect your time. So those are the last of the prepared questions, but I do want to have an opportunity, if there are a couple of questions briefly from the audience, to give you guys an opportunity to ask that. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. Okay.
Yeah, I would like to know
Hold
how,
on.
sorry, do you want me to come up or? you-
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I'll be curious how you plan to address that we're 5 years into a literacy implementation in Gwinnett County and we have yet to see any results. In fact, either flatlined or declined, especially for students who are brown and black and who are multilingual learners and low socioeconomic status, and kids with disabilities have actually drastically declined. I've spoken about this at the board several times and raised this concern. And I still regularly run into families whose children are in third, fourth, middle, and high school who have still not been identified and served properly. So I wonder what we plan to do differently, because what we're doing right now isn't yielding any results.
Yeah, that's, it's a great question, and it's one worth a lot of depth of research into, and that's why we hired our new superintendent. That's one of the reasons. She's had performance in that area. I've had concerns over the curriculum that we chose, but again, remember, the board member has policy. It's the people who, and the superintendent and their staff that implement, and so there's been concerns over the curriculum. I've voiced those concerns to our past superintendents. There's been concerns over how, I mean, again, if you're changing an entire program, and I've heard this from my teachers, my veteran teachers, just how difficult it is to go from something that we've done forever to a brand new, the science of and nobody debates that it works, but a lot of times the time frame that they want to see everything almost miraculously happen is unreasonable. The Mississippi Miracle, they did some things from a behavior, from holding kids back. I mean, there were a number of things that they did that were very, very advanced beyond just the curriculum. And yet it took them 10 years to get the results that they got. So I think that's something that we have to look more deeply into. And I believe we've hired a superintendent who can look into that and find what levers we need to pull as a district to get the right movement in that area.
So we are definitely stuck on that implementation phase. And it feels like we've been waiting until legislation is passed, then we do something, and the legislation is passed, and then we do something. When the information is out there right now, and I feel like it's really important for the leadership of the school to be looking at what the best practices are and doing them before we need somebody to be telling us to do them. Making sure that we do have the coaches in place is essential. Our teachers are learning something new. When our students are learning, they have a teacher to coach them through what they're learning. When our teachers are learning something, they need coaches to coach them through what they're learning. Also, another issue with the curriculum is that our district is huge. Our students can be moved to different schools, especially if they have more needs. And then they are up to the wild card of what curriculum is going to be at that school and this school and that school. And so there's not really consistency even on the basic level. And I feel like overseeing that, working with the superintendent, making sure that implementation is actually happening is something that the board can do at this high, like oversee level. And additionally, so this is a little personal pet peeve of mine, I feel like the Chromebooks are in the way. They are a distraction. When our kids are trying to learn how to read, they also need to be writing. They need to be having paper and pencil, using their hands. And so I feel like getting a distraction out of the way would also be helpful.
Once again, those are all great suggestions. I'm going to go completely different. At Home Depot and Waffle House, every one of their higher executives has to go once a month and cook or walk the aisles with an apron on. If you get up at ISC, is that what it is called? The county level, I call it North Brown Road. The average salary up there is above $220,000. Get them in there have been suggestions from all over the country, get your higher level people, your EDDs, get them in a substitute role once a week. That's not gonna happen, once a month now, and then it's maybe even once a semester. Get them in there because there is the board, there is the superintendent, but there is a myriad, there's a tapestry of people that are thinking ahead, writing reports for what the teacher needs to implement, but she's the last result, she's the last person that is sitting in front of that child. And maybe if there was real live eyes on what's happening, and I sound like the cry in the wilderness, but class sizes, class sizes, class sizes. It helps.
Okay, do we have time for one more question? Okay, I'll open it up. Okay, to the young lady with red hair.
So I went to County Public Schools kindergarten through 12th grade with my mom, and I am now a high school art teacher at Discovery High School. So I have kind of a specific perspective that I'm curious what your position would be as a high school art teacher. In addition to my personal experience, I have heard from many of my colleagues at other schools, particularly Duluth, that, and especially Title I schools, fine arts budgets have been decreasing. And I'm curious as a board member, what would your attitude be towards the arts? And specifically, how would you address the disparity in resources between those schools with more resources and those Title I schools, other schools that have less resources?
Why don't we go left to right this time?
I love the arts. I love, there's some kids that are still in school, in high school, because they're in band, because they're in music, because they're in art, because they found a love. And that may be their career, or that may just be what's keeping them there. It's expanding their mind, it's expanding their heart. They're art teachers. My art teacher was actually my homeroom teacher when she was in high school, and she was the most wonderful person, even though I only had her 1 year for actually art. But she was the most wonderful, loving person. And I just, my guest that came with me today is a music teacher, is an educator. And because I'm not a board member, I'm just saying that I know that you find special interests in these kids, and that will motivate them. Yes, they still have to read and write, and they still have to do their math. But if we can, and that might be, they've started outdoor hunting classes for some of the schools for Gwinnett County, because there just might be some kids that say, wait a minute, I'll stay in school for 2 more years if I can take outdoor hunting. So let's keep them interested, let's keep them in school, let's get them graduated.
Yeah, huge supporter of arts and fine arts, and a lot of that, I mean, any kind of extracurricular activity or even like you, a designated class. Most of those decisions are made at the school level. There's no mandate. There's no board discussion about reducing funding for the arts, period. It does not happen. We love to celebrate when we get our arts and fine arts and languages and they celebrate, when we celebrate them at the beginning of our meetings. That's my favorite time. And so I think some of that's kind of anecdotal, but I also think some of it is the desire to create the balance. And that balance is, yes, we have kids who are going to be attracted to athletics, or they're going to be attracted to language, or they're going to be attracted to art, or to the fine arts, to music, to band. And so every school, the more you try to do something for all, right? I mean, we're big enough to do anything. We're still not big enough to do everything. And so I hear the concern, but I think from a board perspective, and having served on the board for 8 years, I have not once, ever. And David DeBose was one of the first people that I heard speak at a board meeting. And I went right up to him afterwards and I said, what can we do to help you? He goes, honestly, you give me everything I asked for. And so from that perspective at the top, we're doing what you want to have happen. The trickle down, we may need to look at that.
I think some of my most memorable classes growing up were art classes, personally. I feel like it's just as important as math, reading, social studies, science, art, gym, music. I mean, those are all really core essential things for all of our kids to experience, for all of our kids to test and see what their strengths and weaknesses are, or how they can be creative in those areas. So I'm a huge supporter of those sorts of programs. I don't know from a board level what I can and can't do. I do know that there is a certain perspective that will be granted to where I can see maybe where maybe imbalances may be, and then work perhaps with the superintendent or find some other creative solutions to work on. I don't know, do we need to work on helping people keep that as a priority in their minds? That, remind people that art is so important for this and this reason. So, I don't know exactly what I would do, but I know I would do something because I really do care about the arts.
Okay, those are the last of the questions from the audience. Just to keep you guys on time, I know you have another event to go to. How about if we do a lightning round closing statement, like each get 30 seconds? Does that work for everybody?
We can give them 90.
Give what?
You can give them 90.
Really? You sure?
Yeah,
All right, 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, I will keep it really brief because I'm here for a very simple reason. I'm here for kids. I care about our education system personally, and I care about it as a community, and I care about it as beyond that. So I would really be focusing on making sure that our teachers are supported, that our students are all being cared for and their needs being met individually, and that our families are being heard and included as collaborative, meaningful members of decisions before they're made.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to serve as your District 2 board member for the last 8 years. I'm going to say that, well, it's been an honor. I'm going to say it's not always been a pleasure because going through a worldwide pandemic, I mean, nobody deserves to go through that and to have the myriad. But one thing that did illustrate, and we continue to deal with on a regular basis, is this spectrum of ideas. And what you've heard from the candidates that are running for office is usually a narrower perspective. As a board member, we have to think about the decisions that need to be made for all 178,000 kids in Gwinnett County Public Schools. And that is very difficult. But I hear all the time, oh, we need to do CTAE, every pathway at every school. Can't happen. It cannot happen. We can't fund it. We don't have the room. We don't have the teachers. We gave extra points for special education, 70 extra points this last year. We couldn't find the personnel in some cases. So you can want to do something for everyone, and that's not always going to make the most sense. What you have to do is you have to figure out how to give the opportunity to them and to give them the opportunity to grow, give them dedicated staff, which we have. The people in the ISC, most all of them came out of school buildings to then help run and help to lead in those areas. And so being on the board is extremely difficult. We've done a decent job of it. We've got to do better. And I'm committed to doing better. And I think we have now the leader who's going to help us in some of these areas. She's a proven performer. She's going to have to learn how we do things in Gwinnett. She's going to have to make sure to keep an environment which retains our great people. And if she does that, we are going to produce more opportunities for each and every one of our students to be ready for what's next, whether it's career, college, military, or running their own business. Thanks.
Okay, I just want to ask for your vote. You know, I want to ask for your vote if anybody's listening to this that's in my cluster area. I don't know if you would like to see a change, but I would like to see a change. And that's the only way that you're going to see a change on the board. A new, fresh look, a new perspective. There's some decisions that were made that were, as far as I'm concerned, fiscally irresponsible, buying out or early release of 2 different superintendents, and then a sex ed program that's 10 times more than what we had. That we had a very nice program, and those 3 things that they did in 3.5 years were $3.5 million. That could put more points, more teachers in the school, more paras, more support in the schools. This is the only chance right now to make a change. So I'm just asking for you to give me a chance, give me an earnest chance to honor your students, honor the citizens, honor the teachers. Just bring in a new perspective, and I would do my very, very best.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to the candidates. And then we have some closing remarks, is that right?
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out and those watching online. Sorry it was a little late getting up online, but had a few technical difficulties, but we was able to get the overwhelming majority of tonight's forum. I do want to make sure the public understands who's running against who. All 3 of these candidates are not running against each other. So we do have Ms. Camille Christopher, who's running in District 4 against Dr. Adrian Simmons. We did invite to tonight's forum, but unfortunately, when we reached out to her a few months ago, she declined coming to tonight's event. And then we have Dr. Steve. Everybody's a doctor almost on the board, except for a couple of you all on the board. We have Steve Knudsen, who is the current incumbent for District 2 on the school board, running against Chelsea Hutchins, who is the newcomer that's running against him for that seat. So again, we asked voters to do their education. We did put up their different websites so voters can go on and learn more about them, support their campaign, because we always pretty big on making sure voters stay informed about who they're voting for, not only by listening to the answers to their questions tonight, but going to their website, learning more about their platforms. Again, I want to thank you all for watching. We do have one more candidate forum left that we're going to do, and that'll be at Berean Christian Church in Snellville, Georgia, and that will be for House District 13, Congressional District 13, which is the late David Scott's district. Right now, it's a wide open seat since he's not running. Unfortunately, he made a transition about a week or 2 ago. And so with that being said, that seat is wide open now. So please do not waste your vote on late David Scott. He's passed away, but he still will appear on the ballot if you live in Congressional District 13, which happens to be Gwinnett, Henry County, Clayton County, and I want to say a little bit of DeKalb, but I cannot remember how 13 is hard, so weird, but I know it is Henry, Clayton, and Gwinnett, and maybe either DeKalb or one more of the surrounding counties that touches near Gwinnett. I don't know if it's either maybe Walton or one of those other counties, but again, go to www.mvp.sos.ga.gov, check your status, check which precincts you're in for congressional precincts, see if you fall within one of these school districts, whether it's District 2 or District 4, they will be on the ballot. And as always, please, if you're trying to vote for any political party, we never really encourage people to pick a non-partisan ballot, because then you're only going to get the school board and judicial races. So if you do got interest in voting for who's going to represent the Republican Party or the Democratic Party on either ticket, please choose a Republican Party or Democratic Party ballot. Because if you choose non-partisan, you're only going to get the school board and the judges. You would not get a chance to vote in the other elections on either side of the political party between the two dominant parties in our country. Thank you again for watching us tonight. Again, I'm your president, Edward Paul, with the ACP. I hope to see you all out at Berean Christian Church for Congressional District 13 candidate forum. And thank you for watching tonight. Hope he was able to ask some informative questions to help make your decisions for early voting. This weekend is the last weekend you can vote early. In Gwinnett County, the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday this week. Early voting is on the 15th. Saturday and Sunday, the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And you can vote at any of the early voting precincts. Again, go to www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. And thank you all again for watching. Have a great night.